In what time period of history did the Rajan Yuddha, or the Battle of the Ten Kings, happen? Were the Yamnaya invaders of Europe also expelled from India after losing the war, or was that event from a different time frame? Okay, this is, well, in historical circles, this is controversial. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the Yamnaya. The Yamnaya invaders who rampaged across Europe, and in like few years that completely transformed. They conducted a proper genocide of the Europeans, of the male Europeans, and today's Europeans are descendants of the Yamnaya males and the females of that time of Europe. So the Yamnaya, they suddenly emerged from somewhere in the east about 4,500 years before today. That is about around 2500 BC, around that time. That's when this bunch of horse riders appear from the east, maybe from the Pontic Caspian steppe, maybe somewhere else. We don't quite know from where they came, but in a short period of time, historically short period of time, they completely transformed Europe, completely uh, invaded, occupied, and settled the whole of Europe, all of it. That is 4,500 years before today. It's known. We know all the. I mean, there's ample archaeological evidence of an invasion, of an Aryan invasion of Europe. Okay, there's this mass graves and with horrific injuries on the skeletons, and also the genetics change in Europe around that time, 4,500 years before today. So it's very clear this invasion happened around 4,500 years before today, around 2,500 BC. That's the Yamnaya invasion of Europe. Those people, they did not call themselves Yamnaya. Yamna means a pit in Russian. That's what it means. It doesn't mean those people call themselves Yamnaya. Oh, my name is Yamnaya. We are the Yamnaya people. No, we have no idea what they called themselves. Now, so that is about the Yamnaya. That sets the context. Now, what about the Battle of the Ten Kings? Now, let me give you an outstanding example of how Wikipedia lies to you. Okay, we're gonna go to Wikipedia, and here I'm gonna show you in real time how Wikipedia distorts history. Look, Wikipedia Battle of Ten Kings, India. I mean, there's only one Battle of Ten Kings. Even if I remove India, it'll say Battle of Ten Kings. Okay, so Battle of the Ten Kings. It's going to tell you exactly when it happened. Okay, according to Wikipedia, this took place between when did it happen, etc. First phase. Does it tell you when it happened? Which century? BC. Okay, see, look here. Look, it says it tells you. It knows exactly when it happened. 14th century BC. Why does it say 14th century BC? Because the Aryan invasion happened in the 15th century BC. 1500 BC is when the Aryans came to India. So obviously this battle happened 1 century later, because the Rig Veda, as we know, was written in the 15th century BC. Let's look at the Rig Veda, what Wikipedia says about Rig Veda. When was it written? Look, 1500 to 1000 BC. They have decided it happened. This was written at 1500 or 1000 BC. Let me show you more distortions once again. Do we have any reference to Saraswati here? Saraswati River. Now let's see what Wikipedia says about Saraswati. It is a deified mythological river. It's a deified mythological river. Okay, and I mean, let's see. How does it claim it's deified and it's mythological? It will say that this is a mythological river because the Rig Veda refers to it, but the Aryans who wrote Rig Veda, they wrote it in the 15th century, 1500 BC. But this river, this mythical river, it dried up before that. So how can they mention a river that is mighty and all that? How can it be possible? Circular reasoning. Okay, now coming back to the Battle of the Ten Kings, we have no idea when it happened. The Rig Veda refers to the Battle of the Ten Kings, which means that it happened sometime before it was written, or around the time, maybe. So the Rig Veda was written over a long period of time. So maybe it happened after the first writings happened, or maybe before anybody wrote any portion of the Rig Veda. Now, the question then arises, when was the Rig Veda written? That's the big question. Wikipedia will tell you it was written around 1500 BC, because that is when the Aryan invasion happened. Before that, how can anybody write it? There were no Aryans in India before 1500 BC. What evidence do they have that the Aryan invasion happened in 1500 BC? If it even did happen, they have zero evidence of it. Now they say, oh, no, no, it was not an invasion. It was a series of migrations. Well, show me evidence of your series of migrations, will you? None. So this is a brilliant example of how Wikipedia distorts history. There is no proof for the claims that are mentioned as set in stone in Wikipedia. Now, coming to your question, in what time period of history did this battle of 10 kings happen? So it is, let's say it happened sometime around the time the Rig Veda was written, because it is mentioned in the Rig Veda. Okay, so let's say hypothetically it happened after our ancestors, whenever they started writing the Rig Veda. So then the question is, when was the Rig Veda written? Now the Rig Veda, like I mentioned, it refers to the Saraswati. It refers to the Saraswati as a great river, a mighty river, a roaring river, the mother of floods. Now we know the Saraswati existed. Now nobody can deny that, even though Wikipedia still calls it a mythical river. We don't care. It's proven beyond any question of a doubt. The Saraswati existed. It's this gigantic paleo channel of a river that starts from the Himalayas and goes all the way into the Western Indian Ocean, the so-called Arabian Sea, the Sea of Saurashtra. Right. So this great river existed, and you can see the you can see the drainage channel. You want to see it? I'll show you. I will show you. Okay, give me a second. I'll show you the conclusive proof that a monstrously massive river existed. Okay, we go to satellite images. Here we go. Now watch what happens. Okay, let's look at. Forget about what you see over ground. Look at what you see under the ocean. You see this in the center of your screen? Do you see this channel in the ocean? You can see this is an ancient drainage channel of a major, massive river under the ocean. It still exists. And it probably was created when this part of the ocean was above ground, which means it was created maybe 10,000 or maybe several thousand years ago. And imagine how massive the river must have been, that it created such a gigantic drainage channel. Right? So there you have, what else, what other proof do you need? Do you see any other major channels over here? You can see one here, which is the channel of the Ganga. And it's kind of distorted because it must have flowed in a different way in the past, several thousand years ago. But this is one major drainage channel, the channel of the Ganga. And here you have the drainage channel of the Saraswati. So this entire nonsense about the Saraswati being a mythical river, these people, I don't know who they're trying to fool and how long they imagine they can keep fooling people. The Wikipedia idiots. Now, when was the Rig Veda written? The Rig Veda mentions the Saraswati, great river, massive river, the mother of floods, the loudly roaring river, and so on. So clearly, the Rig Veda, the people who wrote the Rig Veda, they saw a massive river, a river in her prime, not a river that is declining and drying out. So when was the last time the Saraswati was in her prime? Around 6000 BC. Because it is known, the papers have been published in Nature, that the Indian rainy season, the monsoon, started declining monotonically somewhere around 6000 BC. That's when the decline started, and that's how the Saraswati also started slowly declining over several thousand years. Over a period of several thousand years, the river declined significantly. Eventually, dried out massively, majorly. Uh, so it means that the Rig Veda was written closer to 6000 BC when the river was in her prime, than to 1500 BC when she was largely dried out in the southern part of her course. So it also indicates that the Battle of the Ten Kings happened closer to 6000 BC than to 1500 BC. What is the exact time period? We have no idea. When our historians, who are paid to do work, when they can devote their entire 15 hours a day to that, if when they start looking into this, we will know.